Disney is the happiest place on earth. We all know this. Even more than the parks being super fun for kids of all ages, most of us grew up on the movies that told stories of love, adventure, royalty, singing mice, and often depressing or scary subplots and original stories. Well, maybe Disney is not so happy after all. Have you guys ever stopped to wonder if maybe, just maybe, that Disney isn't always as happy as, they want us to think? Well, how's it going, you guys? I'm your host for this one, Landon Do Not Sing, and welcome back to another Most Amazing Top 10 video. If there's one thing that we know about Disney, it's that it's full of secrets and deception. Not always bad, but not always good either, and there is nobody more qualified to tell us about all the nitty-gritty details than people who actually work for the company. Well, they actually get the inside scoop. Alright, let's get right into this list. This is the top 10 scary things told by Disney employees. Starting us off, in at number 10 is cast members who get to experience the rides after dark. And by get to, I mean have to. They're absolutely forced to. Well, apparently some of these rides are absolutely 100% haunted. Especially It's a Small World. I remember I was stuck on that ride one time and I wanted to absolutely kill myself because it was so annoying. It was on repeat. It's so repetitive. Well, multiple cast members have reported seeing the little animated dolls blink or appear in entirely different places long after that they've been unplugged and switched off for the night. Honestly, there's just something about the ride that creeps me out, and a reason why I just won't go on this ride ever again. In at number 9 is the poor employee who had a little bit of a game with Walt Disney himself after he died. A bit of backstory. Whenever Walt was at the parks, the staff would always make sure that the light in the window of the fire station was turned on to let everyone know, Walt's here, let's be on our best behavior. Well, once he died, they turned off the lights. But one day, a staff member was cleaning the room where the lamp was, and they saw that it was turned on. She turned it off, turned around, and when she turned back, it was switched on again. This would freak me out. She again turned it off. I wouldn't do that. I would just run like crazy, not look back, put in my resignation, and I'd probably go work for Microsoft or something. Well, something inside her was telling her that Walt was letting her know that, hey, I'm still here. I'm still much alive in this park. Well, since then, the lights always stay on to let everyone know that Walt is looking down on the parks. So everyone there better be on their best behavior. Following up, at number 8 is when a Disney employee noticed that there was a mysterious box chained to a lamppost. Anyone who's seen any type of crime shows know that if there's a mysterious package anywhere, it might be a bomb, and to clear the area and call 911. This employee jumped into action and did just that, because the last thing anybody wants is an active bomb in the happiest place on earth, filled with excited kids and their families. Turns out, thankfully, it wasn't a bomb, it was just some family's lunch, and they just didn't want to carry it around with them. But seriously guys, I don't understand wanting to carry your lunch around. I mean, at that point, just go out and buy lunch in a restaurant, just go buy a turkey leg somewhere. Well, I guess on this day, it would save a lot of people a lot of stress. Okay, next up, at number 7 spot is the employee who had to help break up a fight that could have ended really poorly. Apparently a group of 20-year-olds were getting rowdy and started punching each other in the arms, but one of them missed and ended up punching a 12-year-old girl right in the face. Is this real life right now? How do you mess that up? Which is, well, this is bad enough, but imagine doing that and then realizing that the little girl's dad is right there. It's like, and then right behind her is this big dude. Well, this guy, he was actually 6'4", over 300 pounds, and really mad. Like really mad. It literally took 4 security guards and 2 deputies to pull the dad off the guy who punched his daughter, but not after bloodying up himself. Number 6 today goes to a worker who might have told an exorcism at the Haunted Mansion. Apparently before the ride even opened up, an employee heard music coming from the walls of the seance room. Mysterious music is bad enough from any room, but a seance room? Especially when there are rumors that the spell book was a real one, which was once owned by witches. Well, that is class A nope material for me. Instead of cleansing the place, this employee decided to just install speakers to drown out the noise, but I guess whatever helps you sleep at night, I guess. Halfway through, in at number 5 is a staff member who discovered the body of a man who had died in his hotel room. I guess cleaning staff must have found him, but it was apparent that he had taken his own life. The room's windows and entrance were covered by those "Pardon our dust" signs. I've never seen that kind of sign before, like, "Pardon, we didn't clean this place, don't mind it." And there was an important meet and greet to distract people from the room as police arrived on the scene. No matter what I encountered in my life, I feel like finding someone else's body would probably be the scariest thing to happen. In at number 4 is the employee who had to stop a situation that could have ended a lot worse than it did. This group of drunk people were on the Dumbo ride with their infant when they decided that it would be a good idea to reenact The Lion King. Yeah, you guys know where I'm going with this one. You guys know what I'm talking about. Well, they took off the seatbelt of the kid, and they held their hands like Rafiki did to Simba during the Circle of Life. Well, the ride operator emergency stopped the ride, and the entire group was escorted out of the park and arrested as soon as they stepped out of the gates. So, did they have to wait until they were completely out of the park to be arrested? Because I would try to resist and never leave, like, I would never try to cross that line of, like, Disney, exit, Disney, exit. Next up, number 3 is an employee who had to deal with a watery attack. Well, during a jungle cruise, everything was going pretty well until suddenly one lady entirely lost her cool at the guy sitting in front of her. Mind you, he hadn't done anything other than enjoy his ride because he's in the happiest place on earth. Well, she started to scream at him and then lunged at him, clawing his face and kicking him. The skipper on board had to fire 4 rounds from his pistol into the air to warn other boats, rushed back to the dock, and tried to pull the lady off of the guy. Well, apparently half the people on board were trying to help as well. When medical and security arrived, they finally got her secured and into an ambulance. Turns out she was schizophrenic and hadn't taken her medication that day, and unfortunately had an episode in the middle of the water. It's always sad when somebody has a mental illness that affects them like that. Like, you're trying to enjoy your ride and all of a sudden you're having panic attacks, you're freaking out. But I can't even imagine how scary that would have been for staff and customers as well, who may not be experienced with understanding what that person is going through. Number 2 today goes to an employee who had to deal with the aftermath of something truly disgusting. Apparently in line at one of the rides, a fully grown man decided to take a poop in the corner of the pre-show, which is pretty damn disgusting, especially when you remember that Disney is filled with kids, and kids are curious, and they like to satisfy their curiosity by finding things and putting it in their mouth. Yeah, so one kid actually saw the poop and decided it was snack time. The mom rushed the kid to the staff washroom in a panic where the employees were just staring in shock. If I was the employee in that situation, I wouldn't do anything at all because I would just be in total shock. My mouth would just be like, is this real life right now? Did that guy really take a And finally, in a number 1 spot is a cast member who met their tragic end at one of the shows back in 1974. 18-year-old Deborah Gale Stone was working at the American Sings attraction at Disneyland at the end of the night. She got too close to the area of the stage by a moving wall and a stationary wall. And as the one wall moved, she got trapped between the two and it ended up being crushed. Nobody was in the theater with her, but the ride operator next door heard her screams and rushed to help. But unfortunately, they were too late. Eventually, the solid walls were replaced with, breakable ones to prevent a tragedy like this, one to prevent someone getting squished. I don't know who thought of this. There should be like a fail safe or like pressure sensors. Like, you know how you have a garage door and something's underneath it, it would go and then all of a sudden stop because there are sensors? Well, they definitely should have had one in place. Well, it was rumored that Deborah now haunts the attraction and now can be heard telling others to be careful. Okay, so starting us off, number 10 is a family who, like many others, decide to book a table at Cinderella's castle for dinner. However, unlike other dinners here, this one had a far from fairy tale ending. During the dinner, the husband announced that his wife of 15 years had been cheating on him. He took their kids and left her right there. And probably with the bill as well. Well, it serves her right in my opinion. Our number 9 is an employee who witnessed something totally horrifying, and this person that they witnessed doesn't deserve of taking care of anything living. Well, this person who wanted to go on rides, they decided, you know what, I'm not gonna let things hold me back. I'm gonna put my objects and I'm gonna put my stuff in a locker so I don't have to worry about it and I can go on rides. I don't have to worry about them. Well, apparently one of the things that this person put in a locker was their dog. First of all, I didn't know you can go to a theme park and take your dog. And secondly, how does this make common sense? How does this make sense at all? Putting a dog into a locker without any air. I mean, when you go back at the end of the day to pick up your dog because you were too busy ignoring your responsibilities, when you go pick up your dog, that dog, there's no way it's still alive. Absolutely horrible, and for a staff member to kind of witness that is insane. Taking the number 8 spot today is a grown-up who went to a park dressed as Snow White. And I mean, like, sure, okay, people do dress up as characters all the time at the parks. I mean, it's a thing. Well, except this person got super hammered and pretend like she was the official Snow White, and she started signing autographs, taking pictures, and wreaking havoc at the park. I don't think that I remember Tipsy being one of the 7 dwarfs. This is absolutely horrifying, especially if you're a child and that is your like hero and they're stammering and stumbling and falling over. It's definitely a sight not to see. Coming in number 7 is something that, believe it or not, is a regular occurrence. More than a few times, staff have had to stop people from entering the park because they were caught bringing in human ashes inside of the gates with the intention of spreading them somewhere at the park. They just wanted their loved ones to rest forever at the happiest place on earth, which in theory is sweet, but in seriousness, in reality, it's kind of creepy. Like, you're spreading a dead person's ashes on rides or in the water or on the sidewalk. Spreading human remains at an amusement park, I mean, this isn't something recommended. It's something you shouldn't do. Besides, apparently, they just end up getting vacuumed up by staff, so what's the point of sprinkling them on a ride that just gets cleaned up anyways, or sprinkle it on a sidewalk that just gets swept up at the end of the day? Alright, moving right along, number 6. This guest had a super creative, illegal, and dangerous way of expressing their anger to an employee. I don't know what this disagreement was about, but this guest decided that the best way to get their point across was to throw their infant child just at an employee. Imagine getting into an argument, you're getting heated up, and you have your baby in one arm, and you get so upset, you just take your baby and you assault the person with it. I mean, they're your baby. This is your prized possession. You gotta keep them safe. What are you doing losing your freaking mind? You're an adult. You don't take your baby and assault another adult with it. I mean, poor baby. I wonder what happened. I bet you the cops were called. Maybe Trill and Jade was involved in the situation because this seems like this might have happened. You know, this wasn't the first time. Alright, halfway there, and at number 5 is the peak of stupidity. No offense, but apparently multiple guests have asked employees to turn on the AC outside because they thought that all of Disney World was legitimately under a glass dome. Like, this is like the Truman Show. Like, can you turn on the AC and point it outside, please? Because it's pretty hot out here. I mean, it's 35 degrees. Let's make it down. Let's bring it down to 20. Let's bring it down a few notches. We're sweating out here. I'm not sure if that's how it works. I don't know if putting AC outside would work. Unless, you know what if the world turned on AC outside in the summertime? Would that, like, cool the earth? I'm down to try it. I'm down to waste a few grand in hydro bills. Alright, moving on. Number 4, an employee checking over the Space Mountain ride. Well, they found more than they expected. They found an entire glass eye in one of the rockets. As for the person who lost it, I'm not sure how they didn't realize, but then again, if you have a glass eye and it just falls out, I guess the person didn't feel it. What if they're on the ride, they're going so fast and there's so much wind, it popped out and they thought maybe it was just a gust of wind. You can't really see your eye in your eye unless you're passing by a mirror. So I guess maybe I can see how they lost their glass eye. But imagine someone like picking that up. I don't know if, I guess there wouldn't be like blood on it or anything like that, but it's a real glass eye. It would for sure freak me out, and at least it wasn't a real eye. Coming in number 3 is someone else who lost an assistive device. During a ride at the Animal Kingdom, an object was seen flying past customers. Nobody had any idea what it was until after the ride, one of the customers approached an employee and explained that somehow, okay, get this, their prosthetic leg had fallen off during a ride. I mean, okay, maybe an eye can come out, just Maybe an arm can fall off, but your leg is in the ride, in the seat, like it's on the floor. How does that come out? Unless it's one of those rides where you're sitting and your legs are dangling and it just pops out. It kind of sucks for the person that lost their prosthetic leg, because now they are having an even more tougher time getting around. I hope they found it, and I hope it's okay, because those things sound like it can be very expensive. Nearing the end on this list, number 2 is actually a pretty sad story. One day back in 1973, 2 brothers snuck out and hid on Tom Sawyer's Island after the park had closed. I don't know if people are doing this as like challenges, but you hear about these stories about people staying in theme parks after they close. I mean, it wouldn't be the hardest thing to do. Well, when they tried to swim back, one of the brothers wasn't able to make it, and he ended up drowning. I mean, it's after hours, everything's closed, there's no one there to save them, no one to hear them scream. His body was found actually the next morning when staff members were getting the park ready to open up. Imagine being an employee, you're like 17 years old or 18 years old, you're opening up a ride and you see like potentially a person floating in the water. I definitely wouldn't approach it. I'd call the authorities or managers to like get that situation situated. Absolutely terrifying, and it would leave me with so many questions. And finishing off today's list, and at number 1, we have, well, if you've ever noticed that the characters always have an escort to walk with them, you know, throughout the park, well, this story is why. Like, you know how you see like Snow White going by and you see like 4 security guards, or you see like 4 people around him just to make sure this person's safe? Well, one guest got into a fight with his buddy because he didn't believe that they were people inside of the suits. Like, you must have been so drunk or so drugged up that you thought, like, oh wait, is there someone inside of that suit, or is that a real character? Well, he thought Goofy was actually a giant dog in a hat, and to prove his point, he stabbed Goofy. Goofy was stabbed. I have no defense for this guy. It's complete and utter stupidity at its pinnacle point. Either he knew he was stabbing a person, or he thought he was stabbing a dog. So either way, both situations, not favorable for yourself in society. I'm pretty sure you deserve to be locked up in 4 confined walls at that point, and just spend at least 25 years to think about what you've just done. I mean, you actually thought you were stabbing a dog, like a giant dog in a suit. Makes absolutely no sense. Well, because of that story, and probably because of many other stories that are of violence towards these employees, well, that's the reason why there is security there having to protect them. In at number 10. So back at it with Pluto in 1997, a whole family attacked a Pluto, pushed her into the fountain. Okay, hold on a second. I want to pause this story for a second, because reading it, it said pushed her into the fountain. And I'm a 30-year-old man, and you know what? I just found out that Pluto is a female. For some reason, I thought Pluto was a male. Bad assumption, I guess. Or maybe this employee is referring to whoever was inside the Pluto. So maybe Pluto is a male, like I suspected, and it was just played by a female. But either way, my mind is kind of blown right now. Well, the employee goes on to say that they didn't actually see the attack, but they just got to deal with the aftermath backstage. Later, Pluto told this employee that the family was mad that she had to take her break after they had waited to get a picture. I think Pluto either broke her arm or her leg, and the people responsible for this, well, they ended up getting arrested. Number 9 on our list. Okay, this one's pretty funny, but also equally as gross. An employee recalls that they used to use a Disney code words for things they needed to tell other employees, you know, over the radio. Baloo, well, that was a code for blood that needed to be cleaned up. Well, one day this employee sees a 2-year-old boy half naked taking a poop in the playground, in the children's playground. He sees the employee and starts to cry and just runs away. Well, the employee didn't have a code word for a human taking a poop. They only have a code word for like blood. Blood cleanup in aisle 2, please. So he made one up on the spot and he said, code poo, situation in the kids' play area, and Piglet is on the loose. Can you imagine seeing that? I don't know what I would do if I heard Piglet is on the loose. What does that mean? Alright, so if you guys are liking this video, make sure you guys hit the like button. It really helps us out in the algorithms. It makes us featured on YouTube, and it gets more exposure for you guys. Next up on this list at number 8. This story made the news in 2013. A drunk 23-year-old had been drinking at Epcot's World Showcase, so this is where you can enjoy a drink from different places in the world. Well, it sounds like a good time, but obviously easy to get a little bit too tipsy, which seems to be what happened to this guy. He had the bright idea to run into a backstage area and steal a cargo cart. In the process, Disney employees tried to stop him, but he was on a tear. He ended up punching not one, but two employees before hitting a third with a 3-foot long PVC pipe in the head. I mean, ouch. We don't know what happened to the guy, but I imagine something along the lines of being banned for the rest of his life and and battery charges. And yeah, that might be the way that story ended. Moving right along on this list to number 7, we have this. The Disney employee had publicly stated that the bad days that the employees endure at the happiest place on earth will kind of haunt you. After he shared a story that a 57-year-old Miami Beach tourist headbutted him. Okay, so the backstory of this? Well, apparently the employee wouldn't let this dude's wife, who wasn't disabled in any way, use the wheelchair line at the monorail station. So instead of asking her, hey ma'am, can you get out of this wheelchair line? He just decided to go with the headbutts. Number 6. Imagine taking your family to the happiest place on earth and leaving the family outing that day with one child missing. It happens more than you think. In fact, on multiple occasions, Disney employees have been caught and arrested for child trafficking. I mean, this just got real dark. And stealing children to sell them on the black market. I've heard of this black market thing. I don't actually know what it is. How are people buying kids? How are people selling kids on the black market? In 2015, 3 Disney employees were caught by police as a part of a huge sting. The reports never stated whether the children were found, but Disney goes on to great lengths to cover this up because obviously, well, it's bad for business. Number 5. Disney accidents. Of course there are going to be accidents at theme parks. Pretty scary to think about. All those kids running around, crazy rides. It's kind of a miracle that these kinds of stories don't happen more often. But a 4-year-old boy back in 2000 fell out of the Roger Rabbit cartoon spin ride and he suffered major internal injuries and was hospitalized with serious conditions. Unfortunately, it was too late for this child, who lived with the consequences of that fateful ride until he passed away in January of 2009. I wonder if Disney paid the medical bills for the family, compensated them for the rest of their lives. That must have just been so heartbreaking. Pretty depressing story, but let's try to move on here. Let me take you guys back all the way back to 1978. Okay, picture this. Winnie the Pooh slapping a little girl. Okay, no, seriously, it actually went to court in 1981, a few years after the event happened. This is like going into a mall and seeing Santa Claus slapping kids. So the girl's parents claimed that Pooh Bear had slapped their daughter, but the Disney employee in the Winnie the Pooh suit claimed that the girl had been tugging on his costume, and when he turned around, he accidentally knocked her over. He actually showed up to court in the costume and convinced the jury that the arms of the costume would have prevented him from slapping a child because they were too short and didn't move in a way possible to slap a small child. Coming in at number 3 on this list, we have this. Alright, we gotta go find the kids. Dude, where are the kids at? Another Disney employee rumored that circulated over the years is that there is a jail under Disney World. So if you commit a crime in Disney World, you line hop, you butt in line, you're going to the underground Disney World jail. Well, this is where people breaking rules are kept while they wait for the police or security to arrive. But actually this claim has been debunked. There's a network of tunnels called utilidors, short for utility corridors, that allows cast members and other staff to access different parts of the park and move around without being seen, so as as to not break the illusion and take guests out of the immersive Disney experience. But this has been widely criticized for being the exact way that Disney employees from number 6 stole children. They used these tunnels, hidden away from the public. That's how they got away with it. While I can't confirm or deny through research, but there's a lot of theories out there that suggest there's a possibility. In at number 2,
a 30-year-old employee dressed as Pluto was killed when he was run over by a Beauty and the Beast float over the Share a Dream Come True parade. According to Disney officials, this is the first fatal incident to a cast member.
Death at Disney doesn't seem to be as uncommon as one would think. I mean, we just talked about that little boy who lost his life. A cast member who dressed up as Pluto named Javier Cruz was about to enter Frontierland in the parade in 2004. Well, the foot of his costume got stuck under the Beauty and the Beast float, but the float couldn't stop fast enough. Cruz was struck and killed before entering the public viewing area. This is such a sad story, and one that you think could be easily prevented, and that Disney would have safe protocols in place since they run a theme park where a million things could go wrong at any given time. Well, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration gave Walt Disney World a $6,300 fine for this incident. Seems like nothing for a company worth billions and billions of dollars. A $6,000 fine because they caused death upon somebody? Something just doesn't seem right now. And number 1 on this list, thank you guys for making it to number 1 on this list, we have See You Later Alligator.
We recovered the remains of the 2-year-old from the water.
The 16-hour-long desperate search for the 2-year-old boy attacked by an alligator at Disney World has come to a heartbreaking close.
Well, not quite the case, but in 2016, that was the last thing a father saw when an alligator attacked his 2-year-old son, pulling him into the water. After a 16-hour search, the toddler was found in a Seven Seas lagoon. It is said that Disney has since taken measures to make sure that this never ever happens again. I hope they took serious actions and actually located the alligator safely and removed this alligator from a theme park, you know, a theme park full of children and people. I mean, with all the technology that we have, why not just have a mechanic or an electronic alligator? There's no point of having these dangerous animals alive just roaming in the park, unless the alligator got in somehow. But why not just build fences all around it to keep everyone inside safe?
Starting off this countdown, we have the lifeguards. So I came across this TikTok, and apparently he used to be a lifeguard at Disney.
This is what Disney throws in the water to test their lifeguards. But what they don't tell you is that the lifeguards are told that they have to be constantly watching the water as if somebody's purposely trying to drown their child, because people apparently do that. Disney noticed that people would go there to drown their children on purpose so that they could sue Disney and they could get rid of their child at the same time. So Disney lifeguards are trained to look for that.
That is absolutely horrifying if he's telling the truth. It must be super stressful being a lifeguard at Disney. Like, their water parks and wave pools are always packed. It's so sad if that has actually happened. In our 9th spot, we have the deaths. And if you guys are liking this video so far, then make sure to give it a big thumbs up. You know the drill, because it really helps us out. Also, if you haven't already, go check out the other parts of the series. So Disney is very, very protective of its image. It wants to maintain that it's a safe and family-friendly place. So they claim that no one has ever died at their park, which is clearly false. Tons of accidents have happened at Disney World and Disneyland. Both visitors and workers have lost their lives at Disney. But their claim is 100% true. Now, you're probably thinking, how is this possible? So it turns out what Disney does is when someone does die at the park, employees have to remove the body from the property before pronouncing them dead. That means no one technically died at the park, only outside of the park's gates. They do this all so that families feel safe coming there, because if no one dies there, then clearly it's super safe. But still, this is pretty sketchy if you ask me. In our 8th spot, we have the injuries. Now, if you work for Disney as one of the characters and you get injured on the job, well, guess what? You can't receive medical assistance until you're out of the public's eye. This is just another crazy rule that Disney has. You have to stay in character no matter what. They all do this to preserve the illusion of Disney and magic. I mean, how horrifying would it be if all of a sudden Mickey rips off his head and starts like gushing blood in front of kids? Now, one worker was told before accepting a job as Water Goofy on a Disney cruise, he had to agree that if for some reason he started drowning, he had to be carried away before lifeguards could remove his costume and perform CPR. So he could literally be dying in the costume and need medical attention right away, but Disney won't allow that. Moving on to number 7, we have the repairs. Ever notice how Disney is pretty much always in great condition? I mean, some of the rides are super old, but they don't look it. Well, according to a former Disney employee, every night workers go around the park touching up any and everything. During the day, the workers note if there's any graffiti anywhere in the park or if there's paint chipping anywhere. They write it down and let the night shift workers know, and then they go around fixing it all. I mean, I just took in that I've never seen graffiti at Disney, and that's exactly why. But also, it's a very tedious job. They have to go around the full park and get it all done before the park reopens in the morning. Moving on to number 6, we have the fire accident. So this next story comes from a Disney employee that worked as an outdoor vendor. One night while watching a fireworks show, Tinkerbell got stuck on the wire above the castle since she had been hoisted up because she was flying in the air. But her wire was stuck, and she almost burned to death up there. There was a whole Indiana Jones portion of the show, and in it they had large fireballs. Well, they couldn't stop the show to get Tinkerbell down, so they kind of just left her there and turned off her spotlight so no one could see what was going on, and then they prayed for the best. But like I said before, it's a risk you take while working for Disney. You know, you could be dying and they're not gonna save your life if it interferes with their show. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with the cursed ride. Believe it or not, but there is a ride at Disney that all workers believe is cursed. This is the Matterhorn. First off, this ride is responsible for the most fatal and non-fatal incidents. In 1964, a teen on the ride stood up in the bobsled and then died after being thrown out from the ride. Then another time, the ride caught on fire, injuring a family in their sled. And another visitor died after she was launched out of her seat and then hit by another bobsled. More on this later. You think they would have fixed this ride after the first couple of deaths, but no, they blame it on a curse instead. They should just kind of look into the safety of that ride, because I don't know if it's that safe. In our 4th spot, we have the Death on Space Mountain. Okay, this one is pretty dark. So in 1979, a woman died on the Space Mountain ride. She was only 31 at the time. So basically, after the ride was done, this woman didn't feel well at all, but she couldn't get out of her seat by herself. The ride operators were trying to get her out of her seat, but the other workers weren't notified, so they ended up sending her on the ride again. This time, when the ride was done, she was completely unconscious. It literally put her in a coma. She passed away a week later. Now, technically, this wasn't Disney's fault. I mean, part of it was. They had a lawsuit filed against them, but it was dismissed because apparently while on the ride, a tumor dislodged from her heart and then traveled to her brain. Yeah, I know, that's super scary. In our 3rd spot, we have the ghost of Walt Disney. So for those of you who don't know, Disney had a secret apartment. It was located just above the firehouse on Main Street, USA. This apartment was built so that he could watch the guests enjoy his creation without being overwhelmed by the crowds. Now, his apartment was so secretive that him and his family and special guests were the only ones allowed in there. In fact, photographers were rarely allowed inside. As a result, there are hardly any photos of Mr. Disney and his family in this place. Well, after the passing of Walt Disney in 1966, cast members decide to place a small lamp at the window. They keep the light on to symbolize that Disney's spirit is still alive at Disneyland. And this may be indeed true, because it's said that his ghost still haunts his apartment. A number of employees have seen Disney while cleaning the apartment. Apparently one worker was in there and then the lights started flickering on and off. Another worker said she heard a voice say, "Don't forget, I am still here." And that's when she probably quit, because that's terrifying. In our second spot, we have Dolly's Dip. So in 1984, Regina, otherwise known as Dolly Young, was riding on the Matterhorn when her seatbelt came undone. She was then thrown from the ride and hit and killed by another bobsled. Now, there's still much debate as to how her seatbelt came undone. Some say that she unbuckled it to help her children who were in another car. Others think that the seatbelt just wasn't buckled properly in the first place. Either way, this accident was super tragic. But that's not all. Now Disney employees claim that Dolly's spirit haunts the ride. The area in which she died is now called Dolly's Dip, and employees hate going there by themselves. Those that do have claimed to feel like someone is watching them. Others say that the lights in Dolly's Dip never work properly anymore. Now everyone kind of just avoids that area at all costs. And in our number one spot, we have the tragic accident. So this story was shared on Reddit by a man who once worked at Disney as a VIP tour guide. So he was in the city hall when two women came in with two little girls. One of the girls was in a wheelchair, the other girl looked very depressed. Both of them had cuts and bruises all over them. The two women with them were nurses from the hospital that the girls had just been to. They were there to ask for a refund for the girls' tickets. Now, here's where the story gets very sad. So apparently the girls had been with their mom and dad at Epcot, but on their way home they got in a really bad car accident. They both lost their parents in the crash. So the nurses had come to try and get a refund for the tickets so that the girls could get money to try and go home. Now, how dark is that? That's extremely sad. And on that depressing note, let's move right along to our comment shout-out portion. I'll be shouting out comments from the video, Top 10 Banned Creepy Places Where People Went. Ooh. Lori B commented, "Hey, if Lindsay's hosting, then it's gonna be a great show." Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. A bird commented, "A bird approves of this video." Nice. I'm glad that birds watch my video. It's cool. Humans watch my video and animals, so it's great. Love it. Bonnie the Bunny commented, "Why don't I ever get shoutouts? Do you even know who I am?" Well, here's your shout out. And I don't know, Bonnie the Bunny, isn't that something from like Five Nights at Freddy's or something? I don't know. But here you go. Here's your shout out. There you go. Alright guys, that's all the comments I'm shouting out for today's video. Make sure to comment something down below for a chance to be featured in my next comment shout out. And as always, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to Most Amazing Top 10 for more amazing videos. I've been your host, Lindsay Ivan, and I'll see you when I see ya.